guy, and part of the reason I wanted to cover this story, because honestly, most of it's all bullshit. He is an influence peddler. He is a guy who has been a professional fighter. He is a complete toxic chauvinist. Listen, I am the most like anti-woke person you'll ever talk to, but this is what real toxic chauvinism really is. He is a absolute abuser.
Misogynist. The word you're looking for is misogynist.
Well, basically, he's Tom Cruise's character in Magnolia.
Yeah, I was just going to say that,
in real life.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like he's that guy walking around.
If you've ever listened, and we're not going to bring it up because he doesn't deserve, there's no dignity in acknowledging and such. But if you listen to the things that he has said over the years about openly admitting that, yeah, I abuse women, like what more? Yes, I know you need hardcore evidence, but this idea that there is any type of a movement in support of him, like Patrick Bet-David is very close to where we are here in South Florida. And he decided to interview this guy. And I'm thinking, yeah, I get it. You got your brand. You want to get him on there and get all the numbers. But you listen to what this guy's saying. He sees women as second-class citizens. There is no getting around that. And then he admits that, yeah, I've been pimping out these women for all these years. And yet he still seems to have so many of these supporters. And he talks about stay outside the matrix, this and that. There's a lot of mind control shit that goes on in politics, and he seems to be pretty good at it. But I do think that the more underlying issue here is that there's a lot of disgruntled, unhappy men in society, and they.
I wonder why.
I wonder why. They can't make money and they can't get laid. What the hell do you think is going to happen? They're going to turn to guys like this.
Of course,
exactly. I mean, he is the playboy like Trump is the businessman, right? Like when actual, opportunities are non-existent, when actual, fulfillment in your life is non-existent, it becomes very easy to become attracted to this sort of over-the-top sort of version of what you think that kind of success looks like. So yes, if you're a sexually frustrated man, this guy has some appeal, I suppose. I mean, not to me, but I could see how people fall for that in the same way that I think people saw Trump as a serious business person, right? Just this over the top, macho version of what they see as a life that is not really available to them in reality.
This is, I think, what you get when you decide that you're going to throw out all the science, all the evidence, and you're going to try to argue that, men's, probably naturally genetically programmed biological dispositions are inherently toxic, that they're inherently evil, that they're inherently destructive. There's something that Jordan Peterson said that I think was right on. If you are afraid of what strong men do, wait until you see what weak men are capable of. That's what you've done. You've created a generation of very weak men, and purposely so, right? Because you called them toxic. You told them being, men was toxic. And so eventually a guy like this came along and said, no, you're not toxic. That women are right. Of course, they were very susceptible to it.
And by the way, give me money to show you how.
Right. Well, if you listen to what I know, a lot of people probably don't like him, and I don't like a lot of things he says, but I think some of the things he says are worth considering. Part of what, and he's not the only one who argues this, but part of what Peterson was arguing there was, men, unless you give them guidance and direction for a lot of these impulses that are part of their evolutionary inheritance, unless you kind of sublimate that into socially productive areas, men can be a very destructive force. And to approach issues with toxic masculinity by basically arguing that masculinity is toxic, you set yourself up for this, because you basically acknowledged that there are these qualities in men, and then you gave them no place to go. Quite the contrary, you told them that you cannot express these things in any way because it makes you evil and bad to express them. So you created very fertile ground for a guy like Tate to take advantage. Now, okay, so they arrested him. There will be another one. There will be another one. We have to get back to some kind of a reasonable conversation about these things. It can't just be, this very postmodern gender studies view of men and relations between the sexes, or, it's just not going to work. Like, even if in theory you think the world should be that way, it's not going to work. It's not. This proves it's not going to work. He won't be the last.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I said. I mean, there is a real parallel to Trump on a different issue, right? I mean, you created this very angry, bitter, resentful working class population that couldn't get ahead no matter what they did. And you insisted that any productive channeling of that frustration was communism. And so you can't do that, right? That's bad. So it was only a matter of time before that got channeled in some other direction, and as odious as Trump was to many people, he ultimately was not obviously the threat to corporate power that a socialist sort of populist movement would have been. And so he made it through. He broke through. So there is a real sort of parallel between the elimination of actual opportunity and the attraction to these circus freaks, basically, like Donald Trump and Andrew Tate.
Sure.
Yeah. I find him just absolutely disgusting. I don't like the fact that we've talked about him before. I hate that we're giving him airtime now, because I didn't even know who he was until the last time Peter said we're talking about him. So I wouldn't know this person, but as the only female here, well, not saying how anybody identifies, but as, somebody here who does identify as female, yeah, he is not what I see as representative of masculinity. I think there's toxic masculinity. I think there's toxic everything. Everything can be toxic. And I think that, and I hate like that phrase being overused, because actual masculinity is not that. See, yes. I don't find that masculine at all. No, I don't find it remotely masculine. So to say it's like toxic masculinity, I feel like we should stop using that phrase. He is a misogynist. Okay. He is somebody who clearly and probably hates himself. Don't know, not licensed in that area, but clearly hates women. Okay. And that's the thing. That's not masculinity or toxic masculinity. It's just him being a misogynist. So I think we need more actual masculinity. I don't have a problem. I actually like it. In doses, that is. But anybody can be toxic. That's my point.
Sure. And
it has nothing to do with that he's masculine. I can think of very, very masculine people that are not remotely toxic. So I feel like we're labeling that, but he's just disgusting. That's what I think. He's just disgusting.
He has been charged with human trafficking, rape, and the creation of a criminal organization. These are charges that have been pending for several months now. He probably has been on serious surveillance for quite some time. And look, whatever the actual, touchstone point actually was, if it was in fact him, getting into, for whatever reason, calling out Greta Thunberg and thinking that, that was a good exchange on his part, like he was going to show her up, and she literally embarrassed the shit out of him. And what I think ends up happening in those situations very often is, if there are cases where women are being abused and they see somebody stand up to their abuser, they develop a sense of confidence to say, I'm going to stand up for myself too, and I'm going to call out what this man has been doing. And that's perhaps what did happen. There were people that were being abused by him that never spoke out and finally decided, yeah, you know what? He's going to line up a fleet of Lamborghinis that he was able to pay for by sexually exploiting me. I'm not fucking having it anymore. And they decided they were going to take him down. But like I said, the sadder part is watching people that look at him like he's some type of a hero.
Who are those people? Who are those people?
Stay off of social media. That's all.
No, it's a bunch of friggin', like, I picture a bunch of like angry incels that are just sitting around because regular men.
Welcome to Twitter.
Regular men don't follow
Have you
that
ever seen that video?
It's young boys. That's the thing.
Did you guys see the video of, like, I guess this kid was in, like, what was he, in 6th or 7th grade? And he went up in front of the class and he started like mouthing off to the teacher. Andrew Tate says, I don't have to.
Yeah. I did see that. It's
so
kids.
You're saying he has
kids.
a following that's kids, like he's got
it's
kids.
It's young boys. It's teenage
I have
boys.
2 boys, and if either of my boys ever opened a mouth or said something like that to me, they would rue the day. So shame on those parents that let their kids participate in that kind of crap.
Well, I think a lot of this is to the idea. I mean, there's a reason he makes the Matrix analogy, because as odious a person as he is, obviously he's the scum of the earth. There is a kernel of truth in that, right? There is a kernel of truth that we are living in a reality that has been concocted by people who control narratives very, very well. And Peter, you talked about the censorship that's going on now, and it's getting more and more out of control. You're seeing videos be pulled left and right, accounts disappear left and right. There is a very real reason to be concerned that things are not as they seem, and that what you see is not real. And so there are, of course, going to be people who take what is a very, very valid concern and a very, very valid understanding that these spaces are being manipulated. They're going to take those to extreme lengths and to illogical lengths to say that, well, because there is this campaign against quote unquote toxic masculinity, that must mean Andrew Tate's being set up, or that he's not the monster they say he is. Now, there's no logic in that, but there is that understanding is grounded in something that's actually happening, which is that I would say corporate interests, that's what it is. But in this case, it's a merging of state and corporate interests are actually bending the images and the sounds that we see. I mean, it really is eerie to see what's happening now. You guys mentioned you had a video pulled. The stuff with RFK got pulled. There's stuff that's just, left and right. There was this one guy who just got his channel demonetized. I think the guy had like 860,000 subscribers for reused content. He played a clip of a Joe Rogan show and talked about it, and they nailed him for it. Since when? I mean, this is what people do on YouTube. So you really are living in a space where it's very, very difficult to tell what is legitimate and what is not in terms of opinions that get manufactured about people. And if that opens the door for irrationality, because you can obviously take that to irrational extremes. Defending Andrew Tate is, the perfect example of that.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.